Number 1, where do you farm the new uniques? And the first 5 you would be getting from Grigoire the Galvanic Saint for Living Steel, but don't just do them in normal, because Tormented bosses get buffed as well. First, the uniques you can get here. Actual Conduit for Sorg, Björnfang's Tusks for Druid, Path of Trag'Oul for the Necromancer, Shroud of Canderous for Rogue, and the Unbroken Chain for Barbarian. The rest of the new uniques, class-specific or for all classes, are going to be acquired from the Infernal Hordes. And we'll talk about all the ways to get compasses in a second. First, why don't do a normal Grigoire? Because Tormented bosses get so damn heavily buffed. Tormented bosses now drop 5 times as many boss materials. Usually if you kill a Tormented Grigoire, you get 1 shard of Agony for Duriel. Now you will get 5 shards of Agony. On top, the actual chance to drop Mythic uniques from Tormented bosses throughout the whole board for every Tormented boss is 7.5%. And the cost to summon them was reduced to 1 Stygian Stones, and you should be getting Stygian Stones from the Reputation grind, which is another thing we'll talk about in a second. Now, where do we get Infernal Compasses? And they actually said they're trying to give us 5 to 6 per hour. Tier 4 to 5 compasses can drop from high tier Nightmare dungeons, and then tier 4 to 8 can now naturally drop in high tier pit runs as well, by playing the game simply acquired without breaking your back. Tier 4 to 8 compasses will now rarely drop in Helltide and from Whisper Caches. Whisper Caches, they said it's around a 75% chance that they drop from there, and they buffed Helltides that now you will always get a Whisper Cache from 1 Helltide subzones, so 10 favors per subzone at least. As an example, they're saying tier 4 and 5 compasses can drop in Helltide and Whispers after completing Nightmare Dungeon tier 75 and 100 respectively. So we want to actually clear a high Nightmare Dungeon this time. It's not just a commodity, it's just not a nice thing to do. The earlier you clear the high Nightmare Dungeon, the sooner you can get all the drops from the Helltide. And the reason why you anyways want to do a lot of Nightmare Dungeons is to get Sigil Dust, because Infernal Compasses can now be crafted at the Occultist. They cost Forgotten Sigils and Sigil Powder. Additionally, compasses can now be salvaged for Sigil Powder as well if you don't want to waste your time with the lower tiers of the Infernal Horde. And the reason to not do the lower tiers is simple. The higher the difficulty, the better the loot will be. They even said they aggressively scaled the loot with difficulty. Now, don't forget about Abyssal Scrolls. These were used to upgrade your compasses if you don't just simply craft a tier 8 or find a tier 8. And these Abyssal Scrolls now just drop way more often anywhere in the world. So whatever you do, you might just stumble across Abyssal Scrolls. There's no target farm because anything will just drop it. Now to Reputation, because they added 2 seasonal quests. The first one is going to be the Off Lambs and Wolves seasonal quest line that you straight up start from World Tier 1 or 2 on, and you will want to progress through this quest line. Because the new seasonal quest line works a bit different. First, it's not Helltide only. Mother's Gifts, and that's needed to rank up, drops from slaying powerful servants of hell, including elites, champions, hellborn, and bosses. Whatever you do, you get experience. Probably if you do Helltide, it will still be the fastest. But you can see on the left side here, you'll get rewards, and a Resplendent Spark at the end. We will actually get Infernal Compasses from this and crafting materials, probably Abyssal Scrolls too. And the further you go down, the more reputation you get, the more quests you will unlock. These quests don't unlock by doing them, right? You got to start the whole thing. But then furthermore, you actually get to gain reputation to unlock the other quests. And the more reputation you gain, the more XP you will subsequently get. As they said in their live stream, this works as another XP multiplier this season to level up even further, which means you do actually want to interact with this and you want to do the quests. Do not neglect this just by grinding Domheim tunnels like a crazy madman. And as soon as you're then World Tier 3, you can begin the Eyes of the Enemy questline, progress through the questline, and then you can enter the Infernal Hordes. Obviously, the Infernal Hordes is meant as some kind of end game activity, so you don't want to go in there straight away. Still grind the Nightmare Dungeons to get more compasses in the overworld, and if you're then strong enough, don't waste your time essentially doing tier 1 hordes, rather do the bigger ones as you have your glyphs already leveled up and feel very strong. Good thing though is with the lower cost for the Spoils of Hell, now it's 20 ether to open a chest and 60 ether for the biggest chest. You'll be able, no matter the difficulty, to actually get the higher tier chests and also the good materials, because the Infernal Hordes are also supposed to drop crafting materials that you usually only get from the pit, which is going to be great fun since I would like to have pit materials, but I also do need the new uniques. Which brings us to an interesting point for your builds in Season 5, because they don't only have to be able to push through the pit and kill a boss, so group damage and single target damage, now you also have to be able to survive the Infernal Hordes. And they buffed the Infernal Hordes to give you more enemies than ever, to swarm you harder than ever, that you're literally being attacked from every single corner, left, right, and center. Which means your build should have a good amount of HP to not just be nuked away. I've been actually trying out those tier 8 Infernal Hordes, and they were quite rough on the PDR as everything came raining down from the sky, and if your resistances were not on point, you would just be getting squashed like a bug. And don't forget, there is the 3 bosses at the end that you'll have to be able to single target down as well. They might be 3 bosses, but it's not like fighting the Hellborn in the Abattoir of Zur, where they always kind of stuck together and you could do damage to all 3. Nah, they're dingle-dangling all over the screen, ranged attacking you. So be ready to just get pummeled from every corner, defensive enough, barrier maybe, to then be able to actually fight the priests. Now, another important thing is temper changes, because there's going to be a new all-class tempering recipe coming, and it's called Worldly Finesse Offensive, which adds critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, overpower damage, and ultimate damage. If you're a barbarian, necromancer, sorcerer, or druid, you don't have to make yourself a rogue anymore to get critical strike damage nicely tempered on, or vulnerable, or even ultimate damage if we're going to play an ultimate build as the necromancer. And that critical strike damage is actually huge, as it's usually hidden in a temper recipe for rogue. And the same actually goes for vulnerable. Right now, if I want to get vulnerable, it's cutthroat damage, attack speed, and critical strike, which I don't need at all. Everything would be a dud. And for critical strike damage, I might get some marksman things that I don't need. And as a necro, I only had blood overpower damage, but not actually overpower damage, and also bone critical strike damage. Whereas now we can be boosting every single build with whatever we wish for. One final thing that's going to change the way how you play. You can now earn more XP. If a monster is 30 levels higher than you, you're still getting higher bonus base XP. Usually that was capped at 10. As an example, if a level 60 character kills a level 80 monster, he gets 70 monster experience plus the 15% bonus XP you get for killing a higher level monster up to 10 levels. Now if a level 60 character kills a level 80 monster, it's level 80 monster experience or 90 monster experience, and then that plus the 15% bonus XP and all the other bonus XP multipliers you get. Which means if you're level 60 and you can stack 3 mind cages on top of each other from the Helltide, you could instantly do level 93, 95 opponents and actually get 925 gear. If you do tier 43 dungeons as a level 60 or as a level 70, you're not only getting 925 gear, you're also getting more XP than ever. Very important, useful, and amazing for the whole season. And now if you don't know what to play, how about 3 amazing Necromancer builds to choose from? Enjoy and tell me in the comments below what you plan on playing. Have a good day.